Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and apologies for the late start. My name is Kadeen Smith here in United Nations, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to the webinar on learning routes as a successful strategy for efficient knowledge exchange and scaling up good practices in rural contexts. The webinar is a part of the project Strengthening Decent Rural Employment Opportunities for Young Women and Men in the Caribbean. I am joined today by Ms. Alda Baradinelli. She's the Caribbean focal point for the PROCASUR Corporation, and also Mr. Francis John, who is the Food Security Officer for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in the sub-regional office. Just to give a bit of background on learning routes, the learning route methodology is a toolkit for local knowledge management produced and promoted by the PROCASUR Corporation. The methodology enables the drivers of local development initiatives to convey their experience, successful strategies, and good practices to other stakeholders who face similar challenges but come from a different context. The learning routes are activities based on a pedagogical strategy in which the local champion's knowledge forms the core of knowledge content. Learners reflect on the peer-to-peer knowledge exchange supported by facilitation techniques and experiential learning exercises. The strategy identifies local champions and helps to connect the local knowledge content owner with knowledge management capacities. It also supports the local content owner to place his or her knowledge as services for the purpose of increasing local, human, and social capital, and assists with disseminating knowledge throughout the learning routes. Now, to the right of your screen, you would see the live chat. Just before I hand over to Alda, please do feel free throughout the presentations to share your questions, comments, etc. They will be answered just after Alda's presentation. So Alda, I will hand over to you now.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Alda Baradinelli. First of all, I want to thank you all. Thank you, Kadeen, and for your time, and thank you, FAO, for this opportunity for us to present what learning routes are about and how it's a very successful strategy, as the name of this presentation says, for efficient knowledge exchange. That's a keyword throughout the presentation, and scaling up good practices in rural contexts. I understand everybody is seeing my screen, right, Kadeen? So basically,
yes, we can see the screen.
Good. For the session plan for today, for this webinar, is to have a brief introduction about what PROCASUR is, for those of you who do not know PROCASUR, and some of the key concepts that will be in the back of our minds, trying to understand this approach, this knowledge management approach, explain what learning routes are, understand the 3 stages that involve this knowledge cycle, what have been some of the lessons we have learned throughout PROCASUR and particularly through this project, and possible applications also for your institutions, your organizations, yourselves, and as Kadeen said, questions and answer and open discussion. I prepared a video, a link for a YouTube video, but I think Kadeen will share with you. I don't know if it will be possible to do it this way. I try to be the most interactive I can, but sometimes technology is not on our side. So Kadeen, if you can put the video link for the first video for the participants.
Okay, done.
So they can have the audio, but basically, I don't know how it will sort out. We will see. So I'll just put my screen on the video because I guess you do not have, I don't know if the participants have opened the video that I'm going to show. Otherwise, if it's too complicated, we'll just look at my screen and I will try to do the voice for it. So I will start the video, the first link of the video. Anyway, Kadeen has shared it with you, so eventually after the webinar you can take a look. This is a very quick presentation about what PROCASUR is. PROCASUR, basically, it's a non-profit NGO that for over 20 years have been working South-South cooperation, capacity building, and knowledge management with the purpose of having an inclusive development, particularly in rural areas. We have global and local management. We have presence in 35 countries, although no permanent presence, but focal points, such as myself, that I'm in Haiti. And we have 3 headquarters, one in Africa, one in Asia, and one in Latin America. Some of the key concepts or the philosophy behind PROCASUR basically are these concepts that will be on the screen with white: innovation, experiential learning, which is the base of learning roots. How do we learn while doing, and how do we harvest local solutions for other people to adapt and take back to their contexts. PROCASUR, we will talk about what local champions are. We have worked in, as I said, 35 different countries. We have worked with over 1,000 local champions in different parts of the world. The figures are there: 260,000 households. And PROCASUR particularly has been working in different thematic areas, always in rural development, but we have worked, or the methodology can be applied, and where PROCASUR has much more had experience: climate change, access to finance, financial access, access to water and natural resources, management of natural resources, and particularly rural youth. And here in this project, concretely, this is the focus and the scope of the project, rural youth. PROCASUR, the idea is built, as it says, learning for change, and it works as a learning hub for partners, because we always work in partnership with other institutions and organizations. We do not have projects of our own, because we do not have projects of their own, but we always partner, such as this project, like with FAO and IFAD. And the idea is that we can explore together and particularly share, and that's like the key word, share solutions, tested solutions. So I'm just going back to the presentation. I think it's better you do not open the link. If it's good for you, I will just talk over the video, and after the webinar, you can take a look at the videos and have a better understanding with the audio. But basically, this is what PROCASUR is about, and these are the key concepts: innovation, peer-to-peer, sharing solutions, that will be behind the mind while we do this webinar presentation. Basically, PROCASUR has developed different knowledge management tools, such as learning routes, although there are others, such as learning territories, but we will not be focusing on that. We will be talking about learning routes, because that's what we are working throughout this project. Learning route, as it says, is a planned journey, but it has educational or learning goals, and it's designed with 2 key components. Component number 1, and it works pretty much like supply and demand, like economic supply and demand, no? Basically, the first component, or the first, what we do first, is identify what are the knowledge needs to address problems that are associated with rural development. That is, working in partnership with local organizations, we first identify what are the knowledge needs, what do people want to learn more about, what are the problems they are facing, the common problems they are facing, the common challenges they're facing. This way we identify the theme. What do we want to learn about? Do we want to learn about employment for rural youth? Do we want to learn about access to finance? What do we want to learn about? Or what do the organizations, the institutions, the community need to learn? Because they have had common problems or common challenges, and they are coming up with solutions. So this is part number 1, let's say, like what's the demand out there. And then what is the supply? That means who has this knowledge? What are experiences have actually developed innovatively solutions to similar problems that have had successful results, and that they have been able to apply, implemented in their own communities, and that it has been useful for them. So basically, the idea, and that's the idea of this picture right here, is how do we connect? How do we connect organizations, communities, people that have a specific knowledge need, specific challenge or problem unsolved or on the process of being solved. How do we connect them with those who already have found a solution or already have found a way to address these common challenges? Particularly, the idea is that they share the similar challenges, so it really makes sense of why we are trying to connect. So this is like the basic of the learning route. I'm not going to show the video right now, but I do invite you that after webinar you can see the link of the video number 2 that Kadin has shared with you. Is just an example in Asia about local champions, because this is a word that we'll be hearing along the presentation, and is these people, these experiences that have had these innovative solutions working for them are led by local champions. And local champions are these men, women, young men and women, older, that have outstanding capacities or abilities in their own contexts. They have led actions, new ideas or innovations, and they have a key knowledge based on this experience that they have had regarding they know their context, and they have developed innovative or solutions that work for them in the context. And these people have addressed the challenges they have, solve them with intelligence, action, and have helped that has helped them improve their own, I don't know, production, assets, income, and impacting the quality of life for the families and their communities. Of course, these local champions must want to share what they know, because this is the basic of sharing what we know with others that might have had the same situation as these local champions have had 2, 3, 10, 20 years ago. So learning routes are about connecting throughout a journey, connecting these participants with different successful experiences and local champions. Learning routes basically are, so what our learning route is, and we will see a video very soon, it's a capacity building approach to promote experiential exchange and interaction between, as I said, the participants and the local champions. The interesting thing about learning routes is that it's a peer-to-peer training. It's basically, it's not PROCASUR that gives, it's not the partners, it's not FAO, it's not IFAD who give this training, but it's the peers, the local champions, the successful experiences that transmit their knowledge to others. Of course, with some pedagogical, technical, and methodological support, but let's say the key people of the learning routes are the local champions. Also, what is interesting and what I would like you to have from this webinar is that learning routes or the methodology, it's tailor-made, and you can structure it around any specific learning objectives or themes that you want. So it's like a suit that you dress whatever theme you need in your project. Gender, I don't know, it can be an association of women that have not yet found strategies to, I don't know, include their husbands or have a more gender balanced scope in family. So the idea is to see, okay, what other women's associations have found, what formulas they have found, what innovative solutions they have found. So this is what I say, that it's like you can dress the methodology as you wish. It can be gender, it can be finance, it can be access to land, which is a huge concern, particularly for youth. It can be finance, access to finance. So the methodology, it's a methodology. And the interesting thing is that you can dress it around and play with it. It's very flexible, and it's also a methodology that is in the process of growing. It's not a finished methodology, but it's still, of course, we learn from it. It enables the lesson learning and knowledge management, because people, when they are exposed to the learning route, the idea is that we start extracting what have we learned from this visit, from this case, etc. And it has been tested as an instrument to scale up these good practices and these innovations. I'm going to address this later on how do we pass from this visit to the scaling up and to the implementing of good practices or innovations. But the idea is that I want you to have in mind is that it's an instrument that has tested in the field. And that conducts the participants until they get to this point of scaling up the good practices. And it intensifies peer-to-peer networking because they meet, they discuss, they are together, they exchange. And what is interesting is that, of course, although the participants are the knowledge demanders, let's say, the people that are demanding for the knowledge, the local champions are always learning also from the participants that visit. And the idea is that eventually these participants can identify these potential and useful innovations, tiny, small innovations. It can be like, as we have done in this project, it can be young people that have not had access to understand what a shade house is or a backyard gardening. So very small innovative things for them, maybe not innovative in the broad sense of the word, but innovative for them. And how can they learn, see, experience, talk to the people that have done it, people just on themselves, other young people, and how can they adapt? Because it's not a matter of copy paste, but just adapt it to your own context and apply them in your organizations or context or whenever you go back. So basically, this is in the broad sense what the learning route, what the basics behind the learning route. And but to get there, to get to what a learning route is, and we will show a video. Sometimes for us it's hard to explain a learning route when you have not been in one. Hopefully one day you can come and join us and it will be very much clear. But to get where we are, to get to the point to a learning route is just a phase in the process. There is a whole process going on before that starts before. And it's what we call the cycle of to know how to do, to know how to, and to be able to do. So this first stage, the to know, that is, once we identify what is the knowledge demand, once we identify who has who can supply this knowledge, the idea is that through specific strategies and tools that PROCASUR has developed, very participatory. Of course, I know I don't know the background of the people that are participating today, but I'm sure that you're working in development projects. So most of the tools, it's the same you use when you work with communities, with people. But the idea is in a very participative way, not imposing. It's really horizontal way. The idea is that we can PROCASUR, or what PROCASUR has been doing is facilitating, helping to organize the know-how. Local champions, particularly those who have not done technical assistance in a more formal way, but they have transmitted to their neighbors, or they have transmitted to their colleagues, or somebody that comes and visit. When they transmit their know-how, they have plenty of knowledge, but sometimes this knowledge is not organized in a way that enables the lesson learned, that enables understanding, that enables some let's say more theoretical or thematically order to transmit all this huge baggage of knowledge that they have. So in this first stage of to know, once we identify who has this knowledge, the idea is that we work with them and see we can help them, support them to organize how what they know and how can they transmit it. Also identifying the lessons they have learned throughout the years or the process, and what are the good practices that they are doing. And this is important because sometimes when you do this process, local champions realize how much they have done, how much they know, but sometimes they are not aware of it. And what it says in C, it is planning a strategy so that they can share this know-how with others, with their peers. That means how do you plan to transmit this to others? How do you plan to transmit to your peers? If we come with the learning route, what are we going to do in the day? What are the themes? What are the objectives? What are the activities you will do? Are you going to do a field trip? Are you going to do a hands-on learning? Will you do a PowerPoint? How do you plan to transmit it in the most, of course, and particularly working with youth in the most creative, innovative way, in a way that really can people understand and share, but seeing it with your own eyes. So this is like the first step to get to the learning roots. And what it's nice about also this process is that the product of this process, let's say, is what we call a systematization document, but let's say a case study that will be documented, that contains all these that we work with the local champions. That is, what's your story? How have you got there? What has been your process to get where you are? What have been your challenges, your problems? How have you solved the problems? What are the achievements you have? And it may sound like something basic, but I would say 95% of the time that we work with local champions, the first questions that we ask is, have you documented what you do? Do you have anything that you can show of what you do or your story? And really, I would say 95% people have not documented what they know. And this is particularly important when we're talking about generational gaps or experiences that have older people that have all this know-how, this knowledge, and all this story that sometimes it's transmitted orally, but sometimes it doesn't. So this process enables these experiences to gather what they know and be able to have something to show and to share with others. So after we do this process, now it comes the process of to know how to, and that's the learning route per se, let's say. Of course, there's a lot of logistical arrangements, but I'm going to go fast through the video. But basically, the idea is that once this process has been done of organizing what we will do in the learning routes, participants will meet. This is an example of an international learning route, that participants will meet on a specific point. All the participants will share who they are, what they can do to get to know each other. And as PROCASUR, what we will facilitate basically is a document that contains the summary of what the learning routes and facilitating all the methodological, logistical, and technical support throughout the route. So during the 5-7 day training, participants will be visiting different experiences. Let's say here, imagine this is only an example, it's just to give you an idea. It's not that it has to be something specifically as a solar kitchen, but in this case, the idea is that participants can go and the people that are applying it can be able to explain to the others how this innovation, this solution has worked for them, what have been the benefits, how do you do it, how do you construct it. The part where it's interesting, because that's when the participants will ask the questions to know what they want to know based on what their interest is. I don't know how to get to the. So basically, every day after the visits, together with the participants, we work and we analyze the case. So it's not a matter of, oh, we went today there and so on, this interesting case, and everybody can have the day off. It's basically, it's really demanding, because the idea is that we sit down and think, okay, what have we learned? What is interesting about it? What can I apply? And learning route, we will be working on the innovation plans that are a proposal for action. That is, after being here, after being participant in the learning route, what can I take back? How can I apply? And that's the innovation plan is a proposal of action they take back home, they share with their community, their organization, and say, listen, this is what I like. It can be something productive, it can be something specific, but also be a solution. Like I learned how can we better manage our organization, how can we better organize. So it's important that it's understood that learning is not about learning a specific, like something like a thing. You can learn strategies, you can learn ways to do. So this is, and you can learn all of them in the same learning route. And then we have the to be able to do. That is when during the learning route you will be constructing the innovation plans that are the strategy. How will you apply these lessons learned, and how you will take back these innovative ideas back to your context to address the challenges and opportunities, the challenges you have, and understanding the opportunities you have, not copy paste, but understanding your own context. So basically, the innovation plan is not a business plan, but it's just a proposal for action after the learning route. And it has let's say reinforcement activities. It depends on each project, but the idea is that I don't know, there are examples where after the learning route there are internships where the participants go back to the communities and keep on learning about what they chose to learn in the learning route, go back to with their innovation plan back to their community, supported by a seed fund, and receive support and follow-up either by the technical team of the project, or it can be also by the local champions that come and visit and do the follow-up on site with them. So the learning route is not the end, it's more the beginning of something else, that is the beginning of a proposal for action, a change. But this is very important, no? How do you reinforce the participants, and how do you follow up with an innovation plan and support them so they can really apply their innovations? Very small scale solutions and innovations. What have we learned so far? So basically, in a nutshell, because we don't have much time, this is what learning routes are. Basically connecting who has the knowledge, who has developed the knowledge, and enable them to exchange what they know, and share solutions. So this they can adapt and bring back home to try to adapt and find the solutions for themselves. Some of the lessons we have learned, particularly, and this is a scope for rural youth, is that learning routes really voices out rural youth. Sometimes they are very neglected, nobody listens to them, and it's a way also of involving them in the development and in the decision making, in how can I transform my context, my community, but with specific tools, specific things that you can do, small innovative resources or things. But how can you really become an active key player in your context? Other thing is that teamwork, it motivates and mobilizes youth. Youths are very dynamic, as you might know, and learning routes is very much about teamwork. So it's really inspirational, it motivates, it encourages them. It's open for youth creativity and innovation because they're always looking for solutions. And another thing that is interesting, it promotes this knowledge and intergenerational dialogue, because and this, I guess, in the countries where you come from is also a challenge, and is how do we really close the generation gap in the productive activities that we're doing, and how do we motivate that there is a dialogue between generations, and how do we motivate there is a transference of knowledge between generations from the more adults to the younger people. It's a very participatory methodology, and depend on how you take it, it can involve the ICTs. Young people are very creative. They do videos while they're in the learning route. They do small tutorials. So it's interesting how young people take the methodology and take it one step ahead. It promotes networking and alliances, not only between the participants, but with the local champions, with the institutions. So it's interesting that it really is an opportunity for networking and alliance. And another thing that we have learned, particularly with youth, is the life plan approach, and how it's important, as you see the local champions, the solutions they have found, the innovative things they have found, or the productive activities, is because it's linked to a life plan. That is what they are doing. It's linked to a life plan on their own. It's just not an activity I will do tomorrow but in 1 year I know I'll be leaving my community. But it's more because it's a life plan. This is where I'm staying, and my plan for life is this. So the better these ideas are associated with the life plans and the family support, the more success they will have. It highlights the concrete experiences led by youth. And this is important because what we've seen in this project is that sometimes there are so many experiences, but it's just a matter of highlighting and making them visible, giving them like, wow, these are very young people, talented people out there doing things, but sometimes we do not have a light on them. So through the learning routes, it enables others to know about them, but at the same time, it empowers them, the local youths and the champions, because they see they can train, they have the abilities, they can also be useful to train others. They know a lot of, they realize all they know, and particularly, hopefully, in a future, they can also be technical assistants. This model of PROCASUR actually was born based on the need of finding new models for the traditional extension services. So it's also a matter of how can we promote that these local champions can also be technical assistants in the rural context, right? So it's a support for the extension officers. It can be a support for the communities when the extension officer is not there, but can also help that the knowledge transmits, continues, and evolves. These are, in a nutshell, some of the lessons we have learned in the project. Of course, the limitations. It's a big investment to do all this process. However, it's an investment that it recuperates if participants are given the innovation plans and done the follow-up, because at the end, this knowledge translates into concrete actions and change. And the idea is that it's like a spider web, that they too can be eventually trainers for others. Also, of course, it requires that there is a follow-up, like every project, and a technical assistance, because they can learn about shade house, try to do at home, but if they don't know how to put it, or they face problems that they don't know how to answer, they do need follow-up or technical assistance. Although what we have seen is that depending on the local champions and the participants, they maintain contact, either telephone or whatever, and they help each other, even though not visiting because it requires money. But at least, hey, listen, we had an experience here in a project in DR Haiti, that the local champion was doing vermicompost, and he came to Haiti and kept going for a while, of course, because there are other logistical aspects to consider. But it's important that they keep connected. So these are some of the limitations that the tool has, but I do think that there are specific things that the projects where you are working can apply. First of all, this knowledge management approach of really trying to documenting what we know, what we have learned from the experience. And we know, like in all the projects, there is, particularly if they are IFAD projects, have a whole chapter in the project document that says knowledge management, right? But how do we really integrate it into our day-to-day? How do we document and share the case studies that we have? We have seen in many projects that people do not document their successful experiences. So we really have to incorporate this in our day-to-day, and for the projects particularly, it's a very interesting tool, because it enables them to keep boosting up this learning hub within the context. It's an experiential hands-on training, of course, this approach of hands-on training. This also, what can be applicable is how can we empower these local champions as service providers, this approach that local champions, sometimes we think we need the expert from other place to come and tell us what to do, but just next to us, next community, in the district next to us, or in the region, there is already somebody that is doing it and has already had very good results. So how do we empower them as service providers? How do we really make them be boosters for rural development? And linked to this is how do how do we identify these common problems and tested practical solutions by local champions, right? So it's doing like a catalog of what have we done in our country, and this is something that in this project we have seen that sometimes young people are doing, as I said it before, great things, but they are only known, let's say, locally, but rarely they are known in other regions or in other districts. But this approach can really help us network and really help us grow together, and not trying to learn from things that what have been done that have worked for others. Testing, of course, because it's not a matter of I'll do it and it's going to work for me, but at least we try things new. So this is in a nutshell what learning routes are about, and the whole, let's say, this whole process of knowledge management. And just to get back to the title of learning routes as a successful strategy for efficient knowledge exchange and scaling up good practices. So what PROCASUR has been doing throughout these years, 20 years, is basically try to understand knowledge management, that is learning from the experience, documenting and sharing, and lesson learned. How can we share this knowledge that we have to be able to adapt to other contexts and scale up these good practices or these innovative solutions in other contexts? It can be locally, it can be nationally, it can be regionally. PROCASUR has worked like either among regions, Asia with Africa and Latin America, or it can be within the country, such as this project. So far, we have implemented 3 learning routes, one in Guyana, one in Belize, and another Haiti, Dominican Republic, since we are neighbors. So it's a binational, let's say, approach. And how do participants identify what there is? Of course, like every activity we do in life, it depends also on the profile of the participants. So this is very important, that they are people that are really engaged to the rural development in their communities and are really motivated and have already some minimum of background in what they do. So I think for me now, so I'll just leave the floor for questions and answers, or a more open discussion. Hope everything was clear, and Nadine, I'll give it back to you. I don't know if there are questions.
Hi, Alna. Thank you so much for that presentation. Now, while we open up the floor for questions, questions can be submitted in the Q&A live chat that you would see to the side of the screen. This is for the participants. But Alna, can you share with us a bit about how participants who may be interested in becoming more involved in the methodology, like where they can find additional information or maybe interact with someone after this webinar, you know, if they have additional questions, etc., if there's any contact information?
Yeah, I will put my contact information anyway. Anyway, as you can see in the document they sent about the invitation, this webinar. This is our first webinar to introduce this in a nutshell what learning routes are, and the idea is that we have a second webinar, a second session, where we can go a little bit more deeper in the specific tools that are required for the. We will be talking a little bit more in. If you recall the diagram I showed, the to know particularly, how can we document, how do we do it, how do we systematize, particularly in this to know area. So I guess there will be a second webinar. I see in the invitation 4th August. I guess we have to confirm that date, but for those interested, there will be a second phase.
Okay, and I do have one question via email, just asking about plans for the long term or medium term, whether there are plans for extending to other Caribbean countries.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
No problem. It's essentially whether there are medium-term plans for expanding to other Caribbean countries.
Well, within we are as PROCASUR in this project, and I leave Francine or yourself to answer. Within this project, this is a very closed project for the closed. I mean, in the countries that are already within the project. As PROCASUR, we are always open to work in the context with the partnerships, right? So it's a matter of exploring. So far, no, but it's something that we can always explore with the interested parts, with FAO and PROCASUR.
Okay, thank you so much. I know we just have 5 minutes on the clock. If there are any other questions, I don't have questions at the minute. I do have feedback via email that the session was quite informative. So thank you again, Alda. And also to Francine. Unfortunately, we did have a bit of technical difficulties where we were unable to use your microphone. But thank you to you both. Thank you to the participants. Alda, is there anything you'd want to share in closing? We have about 5 minutes more.
I am going to Kadeen, can send my email anyway. There are other questions, and I guess that with FAO we will coordinate for the second session. Hopefully, it was interesting enough for you to come back. It's not the same as a learning route, very interactive, but we tried our best. And basically, I just want to leave this idea that there are tools and actions that projects can apply or maybe are already applying, and it's not necessary to do the whole process of a learning route, but different knowledge management tools that we'll be willing to share in the next session for all of you.
Okay, and since we do have just about 3 more minutes, there's one question from the Youth Awareness Movement on the live chat. It's what can be done to restrict some of these limitations, also the cost aspect. What is your opinion or solution about minimizing some of the costs associated with the metal authority?
Yeah, this is as I said. I think this is the whole methodology, as I was explaining, the whole process. It requires an investment because it requires logistical. Like there are many costs associated to this. But as I said, there are tiny tools and actions that associations can do or movements can do in knowledge management, not necessarily a whole learning route, but like documenting, and particularly, and this is, I understand, it's a youth movement. In Colombia, there have been very successful examples of youth networks that what they have done with little resources is identifying the local champions in their different districts, and with that, they have motivated other young people to come in, because these young people are the ones that continue summoning and calling the others. So it's a strategy that they have used that is low cost because it's really voluntary work, but it works, and it's the same principle of knowledge management and knowledge sharing and local champion. No? How do we give voice to this youth because they have been neglected? So there are things that can be done. If you come to the next webinar, we can discuss more about it. Or you can write me an email with copy to Kadeen and Francine. I will be willing to answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Alda. Thank you, Francine. And again, thank you for all those who participated online, submitted your questions by email or through the live chat. All right, so we will get back to you on arrangements for the second webinar. We do have quite a few participants that have already indicated their interest, so this will be communicated with you via email. Thank you.
Thank you.